Okay, I'm going to show you how to make some quick trees for Blender here. So I use this program called TreeIT. It's free. And we'll open it up and we'll load one of the already pre-made trees. Has a whole bunch, different kinds. We'll bring in a coconut palm tree. Don't grab the leaf, grab the tree. Open. Brings it in. Now you can change a bunch of parameters on the trunk, like if you wanted to make more branch sides, you can make the tree all different. Make more branch, you can make some crazy looking trees. So we'll go with this for now. Mesh, leaf, tree. It has different parameters. You can randomize the tree. So we'll do File, Export. We'll make it OBJ. The FBX doesn't always work right. I don't know if it's a difference between ASCII and binary. There is a difference. But OBJ is pretty common, so we'll export it as that. I'll export it to the desktop. We'll call it Coconut Palm. Okay, we'll open up Blender. And we'll import it, the OBJ file that we created. So we'll do File, Import, OBJ, go to the desktop, find the Coconut Palm. The default settings are probably okay. We'll bring that in. Now, it's rather large, so what we'll do is we'll grab the tree and we'll scale it. And to scale it, you hit S, 0.01, and we bring it down to a size that's more manageable. And then to apply that scale, you do Control A, Scale. So we have the tree. Now, what we're going to do is come up here, and if you see, it turns into a little cross. We're going to drag this down so we have another panel to work with. And what we're going to do is we're going to use shader. Now what a shader is like a material. It sets up different colors and transparencies and stuff like that for the tree. Another thing we're going to do is we're going to go in here to the viewport shading, and we can turn on almost like a live view. So we'll click on that. It'll take a second or two. Now if you look at the branches, the little palms, you'll see it's black. What that is, and I'll show you that, we'll take and we'll drag this over. We'll hide that toolbar and we'll change this over to the image editor. It's an image editor like Photoshop, kinda. And what we'll do is we'll look at that coconut palm leaf. And if you noticed, it's transparent here. That's what that means. But here it's showing up black. The reason being is there's something called an alpha channel, which is a transparency. And what we need to do, since we're using cycles, is we need to connect the alpha to the alpha. And that should make our tree, oh, nope, see, I did something wrong here. What I did was I actually grabbed the tree itself and not the leaves. There we go. That's the problem. There's two different materials when it exports them. There's the tree itself, and then there's the leaves. The leaves is the one that we need to make sure that the transparency works. So what we got to do is bring that channel, that clear channel, alpha to alpha, and see what that did, how it made it transparent. Now if you do Control-Alt-0, that'll focus the camera in close, and then we're going to hit F12 and it's going to render. It's going to make our image for us, and give it a few seconds to make the image. Now you could animate this, you could have physics actually work with Blender where it actually blows the tree around. You could take and make a bunch of different ones like this and randomize them and then paint them on a landscape to make a pretty nice scene. Now it takes a little while because The way it's doing it here, there's a good bit of polygons that it actually has to go through and calculate and all that kind of stuff. And I'm also using the GPU to render. Sometimes the CPU is faster, and let's see. We'll hit escape on there and that'll stop the rendering. We'll actually pick another slot, because you can have different slots, different render scenes. And we're going to come back up here to the rendering, and we're going to make it a CPU. Now my CPU's got like 4 cores, 8 cores, I don't even know. And we'll hit F12, that's another shortcut to render. And we'll do that. If you notice, the tile sizes are smaller. That makes a difference. Now the GPU might have worked better if you tweak it, and I didn't really tweak it. I just put a lot of parts in this, so I'm not exactly sure what's the best approach yet. And you can see it's rendering, it seems to be rendering quicker, which could be. I think there's also an experimental version of Blender where it'll actually use both the CPU and the GPU, and that would be really cool. So you can see what that looks like. Now, that has a gray background. If we wanted to render, and we can go back and look at what we did before, see what that started looking like. We'll come up here and we'll make another slot, and we'll come down here to film, and then we'll change the background to transparent. And I'll show you what we're going to do here, and we'll render that again. And you'll notice that the background is going to be transparent. And I'll explain what we're doing here in a minute. It's kind of like what this is with the leaves up here, where if you have a clear background, it sees through it. That's a fast way to do rendering if you have like one image here with a transparent background. If you had polygons for all this, the CPU, GPU, whatever would have to work like crazy to try to do all the rendering and everything. So this actually works out pretty good. Now, when it's done, you can see that's done. And what we can do is we can actually save that image. There we go. Image, save as. We'll save this on a desktop, and we'll call it rendered palm. Okay, and it's going to be a PNG file. PNG is portable network graphics, and we have the alpha channel turned on so we can actually use the alpha channel. Not all file formats for graphics have alpha channels. JPEGs don't. You can't do what we're going to do with this. So that's done. We're going to close that up. So we'll just minimize this. Our tree's still back there, and we'll fire up GIMP. And we'll load some kind of image. We'll go File, Open. Let me see if I can find something neat. Trying to find Bermuda. We'll go with Bermuda. Yeah, here we go. So we have a background like this. Now what we could do is we could File, Open as Layers, go back to the desktop, and find that rendered palm. Now what's going to happen is, as you can see, there's a transparent background there, and we could move this around. We could also come in here and scale that layer. We can actually go in and type a size in, and this is 16 by 4. Let's make it 400 by 400 and scale. Now you can see how we put that image in there. Yeah, you can do a lot of stuff like this. You could animate it, you could put it over top of a movie, and I'll explain how to do all that later. But that's one of my favorite little programs for making trees and stuff like that. One other program I'm going to show you real quick is the Sculptris. Sculptris is similar to a really cool program called ZBrush. What it is you can actually take an object, a 3D object like this sphere you start out with, and you can actually do like clay. So for example, draw, we could bring that in, and you can actually change the size of the brush by pushing in the brackets. And so draw, you could actually set here and you could draw, and you have other tools you could work with. Inflate, it'll expand. You can see how it's expanding up there. Grab, you can actually grab stuff and move it. Like say you wanted to make some kind of creature or something like that, and you can see how this could work. And you can turn it, grab, and then you, like I said, you can change the brush size, and you can do a lot of really fine details. Crease, you can go in and draw creases under things. Best thing to do is to actually use a tablet. I mean a tablet, drawing tablet, and I actually have one that I use a good bit. Flatten works pretty good if you want to flatten an area down. Like say you want to make some kind of ears or something like that. Inflate, I think if I remember correctly, if you hold down shift, oh yeah, I'm drawing a mask there. And what masks do is, they're pretty cool. You draw a mask and then everything else can be affected by it. So that's what it'll do. And then the same thing you could do once you get your mesh the way you want. You can actually export it, save, to save the image itself. That's the Sculptris file, but I think, if I remember correctly, there it is, export. Desktop, we could call it, funny guy. I don't know, we'll just call it weird OBJ file. And I think I spelled it wrong, but who cares? Okay, I can come back into here. I can do file, import, bring in OBJ, find that weird thing I just made, same thing again, import objects, and there it is. And then you can do a lot of other things with texturing and all that, and pretty much everything that you could do in Sculptris, there actually is a way to do that in Blender. Blender does a lot of cool stuff: smooth, flatten, fill, scrape, blob, inflate, like we've seen before. See how it's inflating it up a little bit at a time. Grab, same thing. You can grab stuff. For some reason it's not moving it. I don't know. But anyways, it'll do a lot of things like that. I'm sure I got something wrong somewhere. Oh, that's the polygon. If you hit tab mode, it'll go from object mode to polygon, and I'll explain that in the future in Blender. There's a lot of polygons here for that. Okay, so I think that's enough for now. We'll have a lot more.